gonna be a wild one. We got 150-pound weight difference.
Oh my God, he tapped out, unbelievable.
A barrage.
That's it.
Miro Crocop. Oh, the heart is on the
They are huge, powerful, and hit like trucks. But in rare cases, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Some MMA brutes are intimidating as hell, and by spreading fear in their opponent's eyes, they have all the right to be cocky and confident. However, just like the Bible story about David and Goliath, the world of MMA has a fair share of big guys getting mauled by tiny athletes, which shocked the viewers in disbelief. In this video, we will point out a few of those fights when cocky giants got brutally destroyed by fighters. Bob Sapp versus Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira. On August 28, 2002, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt Minotauro Nogueira was scheduled to face Bob Sapp, an absolute powerhouse with destructive power. In the early 2000s, Bob Sapp was a monster who was smashing opponents like bugs, and his colossal size, supported by unreal muscle mass, made him one of the most feared fighters at the time. Sapp looked at Nogueira like a bull ready to charge forward, and the moment the fight started, he went after the Brazilian, who shot for a takedown. The brutal strength was evident as Bob Sapp subjected him to gravity shock treatment, slamming him off the canvas as if he were weightless. The big Nog was desperately trying to get the fight to the ground where he would have the advantage, but Sapp was easily overpowering Nog with his size and strength, preventing him from utilizing his deadly jiu-jitsu. However, as the fight continued, Bob's gas tank was running low, and this was the time for Nogueira to shine. After reversing the positions, Nogueira snatched Sapp's arm, forcing the giant to tap. James Thompson versus Katsuyuki Fujita. In 2006, Katsuyuki Fujita had to face the final boss of a video game, James Thompson. They call him the Colossus, and we can agree that there could not be a more suitable nickname for this huge, aggressive, scary fighter who would rush to each of his opponents and try to knock them out early. As the fight went on, they decided to play Russian roulette by swinging wildly without precautions, and it looked like Thompson was too powerful for Fujita to handle. The Japanese fighter desperately sought refuge on the canvas, but was overpowered again. The Englishman dropped a rain of bombs, making Fujita's face look like a Halloween mask. However, the Japanese fighter was not ready to compromise, got up to his feet, and returned with fire, challenging the opponent to a shootout. A merciless, all-out war broke out where both fighters were launching missiles, but in the end, it was Thompson the one who kissed the canvas. Igor Vin versus Paul Varelans. In an old-school fight from 1996 with no weight limits, the 5'8" tall Igor Vin was locked in a cage against a 6'8" giant weighing 300 pounds. The Ukrainian fighter didn't waste time with appetizers and went straight to the main course, blasting the opposition with heavy hooks. The American fighter tried to close the distance and use his size to his advantage, but he didn't realize that Vin had seen worse during the collapse of the Soviet Union. Igor went after Paul without a bulletproof vest and a helmet and set a rhythm with swift combinations. Only 2 minutes into the fight, the American had already received more shots than 50 Cent, and Igor Vin was not keen to taking prisoners, sealing the deal with heavy haymakers. Miro Crocop versus Hongman Choi. On December 31, 2008, the Croatian kickboxer was matched against Hongman Choi, a 7'2" colossus who was one of the top K1 fighters of his generation. Crocop is known for his powerful high kicks, but reaching a giant like the Korean was the same as trying to climb Mount Everest in flip-flops. The fighters were cautious, respecting each other's skills, and Choi was closing the distance to prevent Crocop from unloading his nuclear button. Considering he couldn't reach his head, Miro decided to go downstairs and chop his legs like a tree. The Korean met his inevitable doom on the feet in the first round when Crocop closed the show with a powerful leg kick that dropped the giant in agony. Daiju Takase versus Emanuel Yaro. This was one of Pride's freak shows when a big fighter with no skills was matched against a tiny one who knew how to fight. Takase refused to engage throughout the fight, and who could have blamed him considering the size difference between the two? Although Daiju Takase was never the running type, it turns out it depends on who's chasing him. After almost 15 minutes of running around, Takase finally got the cojones to close the distance and enter the lion's den. It appeared as if Yarborough would simply use the walrus technique by laying over the opponent and smothering the opposition with his fat. Somehow, the little guy managed to escape the grip and started unloading bombs to the opposition, bouncing his head off the canvas like a pinball machine. The referee had no option and jumped in for the rescue. Genki Sudo versus Butterbean. On December 31, 2003, the BJJ black belt Genki Sudo was set for a showdown against Eric Esch, also known as Butterbean, known for knocking people out senseless. The Japanese fighter knew that one punch is all it takes against Butterbean to receive a one-way ticket to the Shadow Realm. Therefore, he circled around, avoiding exchanging fire with the big guy. But then, when the American least expected, Sudo decided to take the fight to his own domain by executing a picture-perfect single-leg takedown. Butterbean looked like a fish out of water on the canvas and had no answer for Sudo's ground game. After landing a fair share of ground-of-pound strikes, the Japanese fighter went for a leg lock, and Butterbean was saved by the bell. In the second, Genki Sudo decided to go full WWE on the American, bouncing himself from the ropes and delivering a Bruce Lee-style kick that cost him a position. Nevertheless, Sudo adjusted himself for a leg lock and was stopped by the referee to take Butterbean's leg home with him. Fedor Emelianenko versus everyone? Fedor Emelianenko is widely considered one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time. He was tiny for a heavyweight and was mostly oversized by all his opponents. Nevertheless, he was a force to be reckoned with and always found a way to win. On December 31, 2005, Fedor was scheduled to face Zuluzino, an undefeated smashing machine at the time, whose previous opponents never heard the final bell. The Russian showed that his striking was as deadly as a sniper rifle shot horizontally. When he fought Hongman Choi, Fedor delivered the same left hook as he did against Zuluzino, but this time, the big Korean fell to his guard. By this time, he should have realized that Fedor's guard is a snake pit and should have aborted the mission. However, Choi decided to land some shots, and Fedor capitalized on that opportunity by executing a picture-perfect armbar, which forced the tap. How about the fight against Tim Sylvia, the former UFC champion and a giant with heavy power in his hands? The last emperor needed only 36 seconds to penetrate Sylvia's fortress with a heavy artillery of bombs before depriving him of oxygen. What else can be said? They don't call him the GOAT for nothing. Thanks for tuning in to today's video about cocky giants getting brutally destroyed by small fighters in MMA. If you enjoyed watching and want more content like this, why not show some love with a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button? Join us on our journey to 1,000 subscribers. Remember, each subscription brings us one step closer to our goal. Let's do this together.